Good morning, everyone. It's Tractor Man 44 here. I mentioned in another video that one of these days I was going to have to piece together a saw rig for my son. This is the tractor I've decided to get back out of dry dock, so to speak, and get on the road for my son to take down there with that little saw rig. This is an 800 Ford. It's about a 1955 or something like that. I don't really know. Never really ran the numbers on it, but it's like a 172 cubic inch four-cylinder gas. I used it. I've got hundreds of hours on this tractor. I've had it for 35 years or so. So this here actually was given to me by a buddy of mine that it had been vandalized. Now I'm going to show you all a trick. Now I don't share this with just anybody, so you ought to feel privileged about that. Now I squeezed on it, I bent, I twisted, I did everything under the sun on it, and it will not come loose. So what I'm going to show you, this will work. Not every time, but occasionally. But what you want to do, you don't want to take this bail completely off. You want to just loosen that bail a little bit to catch the glass. Okay, just in the event that it does fly off of there. You want to get you an air chuck, 70, 80 pounds of pressure on it, whatever like that. But you want an air chuck with the rubber on it so you can actually gasket that in here on that inlet and just pull the trigger. Did you hear it? It popped. Whenever it popped, it blew itself into the little retaining nut right there, and it's loose. It's ready to come off now. No more beating, no more going crazy. It's loose. Yeah, I'd say it's a little gnarly in here. I just pulled the bail off, after we blew it loose. And obviously the gasket's destroyed, but that's to be expected. And then you can see all the oxidation stuff in here. I don't know that we're going to salvage that brass screen. If we do, fine. If we don't, I ain't going to worry about it. That brass screen could very well have a cork gasket impregnated on it from the back side that sandwiches the cork and the as a matter of fact, I think it does, because the remnants of this gasket is the pinched off cork from inside there. So it's not a big deal. We get this all straightened up, and it'll be fine. We'll make her go. But it does look kind of gnarly in there, doesn't it? Take a look at what we see. Well, heck. Probably going to do this off camera. I don't have my knife with me. And oh, there we go. I got her. Yeah, this screen is deteriorated enough. It's gone around the periphery. It's no longer going to function. So now I got to get all this stuff off of here and out of here. That cork gasket, whenever they deteriorate, kind of nice, But there we go. Not good, but that's okay. We'll fix it up. Anytime I go through a farm supply store, I keep my eye out for bargains, because you never know when something's going to pop up. Now, like this right here, for instance, all these gaskets and everything, I got them for like 50 cents a piece, whatever. They were half off. So there's a variety of diameters and sizes. Here's some of the brass whatchamacallit. So, if I had to give 75 cents for that, that's a pretty good deal. I can't make one that cheap, whatever half of $1.29 is. But at any rate, again, I'm a sucker for a bargain. And just a suggestion, when you use a lot of this stuff, keep your eyes open and buy them when you get an opportunity, because you always need it when you ain't got time to go to town. Now, what's the chance you think of buying the exact one with the exact offset and the exact size that you need at half price? Check this out, man. Look at there. The exact one. Look at this. That's pretty cool, ain't it? Half of $1.29. Looks a little better than it did when we started, doesn't it? Now that's probably going to seep a little bit. It's going to take a little bit for that cork to kind of soak up a little gas, but you just reach in under the carburetor and give her another snug, and it'll be just fine. I went ahead and pulled this bolt and cleaned the passage all the way through it, and also I cleaned the entire sediment bowl, the whole housing and everything. So this is ready to bolt back on the carburetor, and as soon as I get the battery cable fixed, and get a little juice in the battery. Actually, that battery is going to be bad. I'm going to put a different battery in it. But let's go ahead and pop this puppy back on. Well, I got the clean sediment bowl on the other day. And, of course, I had to do some other stuff for a couple of days, so I ain't been back. In the meantime, put the old battery on the charger. Now, I don't think that battery is going to be good. It's from 09, and it tested extremely weak even after I've had it on the charger. So this old motor don't take all that much to spin it over, but we're gonna give her the old school try and see. But I gotta fix some of the wiring first. I'm gonna put a different hot wire on, you know, from the battery post over to the solenoid. I didn't want to take the time to put a new end on the original cable because the cable was short to begin with, and I'm afraid it'll be way too short. I'm going to show y'all something here. I do have to put a new end on this one wire. The little black wire hanging down there, you see, that's the hot wire going to the lighting circuit. But I had a little buddy of mine that was a military aircraft maintenance electrician, and he one time years and years ago gave me a set of these right here. Well, this set right here, and it's for crimping your crimp connectors on the end of the wires. They're military grade, obviously, because they are from the U.S. military. But it actually says right on it, commercial aircraft. And it's got the different gauges and all that stuff. But I've been using these for oh my gosh, I've been using for 20 years commercially, because, you know, like I said, I did commercial and industrial air conditioning, you know, and so I've had to repair a lot of wires, you know, put a lot of connectors and stuff on. But there's a little bit of a learning curve to get used to using them, but they really work wonderfully. Now, I kind of misshaped that a little bit. I had to drill it because it's got a 5/16 lug that's got to go through that, so I actually had to file that out with a rat tail file. But this thing is really cool because once you engage it, the ratcheting mechanism engages, and it will not release until you get all the way to the determined crimp. Now we're all the way down, and it'll release, and your little thing with jig will just pop right out of there. Well, sometimes you kind of got to fiddle with it because, like I say, I kind of misshaped this a little bit, you know, whenever I had to file that out. But at any rate, that is the specific amount of pressure that the U.S. military says this particular gauge wire and connector has to have on it to give you a good, secure connection. And if it's good enough for the U.S. military, hey, man, it's good enough for an old Ford tractor. So at any rate, I'm going to go ahead and crawl over the top, slip that battery in. We'll come back around and get a little gas in it and see what's going to happen. So this old boy's been sitting here at least 4 years. You can tell about the barn dust accumulating on my dials there. So I shined up just a little bit there. Now I'm not expecting it just to click right off and fire right up, simply because it has been setting long enough where all the gas evaporated out of the tank. Well, if it's all evaporated out of the tank, that means it's evaporated out of the carburetor too. So it's probably left some nastiness behind. So I'm going to get a little fresh gas dump in there. We're going to come back and see if this thing will even bump over. I just set that battery in there and have not touched the starter button yet. Well, I've been running mostly diesel tractors all summer. Hadn't hardly used any gas at all. Consequently, all my cans are just about empty. I got about 3 gallons of gas. That's all I got. I got some gas treatment in it. I get some Pride G, which is some really good stuff. It's supposed to be hands down better than Seafoam or stable. Well, a little bit I've used of it, it seems to do okay. But I've only got about 3 gallons anyway, so I'm gonna dump it in here and see what happens. This gas is horrible. You've got to use stabilizer in it, and it's still to me it just ain't worth the darn. They say it's formulated for all these high performance, high RPM, you know, new engines and all that stuff. They've taken the lead additives out of it, you know, because of the EPA and things like that. Plus they've oxygenated the fuel. They've added alcohol to it. Alcohol has an affinity for moisture. It draws moisture if it sets in a carburetor and creates corrosion and oxidation and things like that. The fuel then phase separates after 30 days, 45 days or so. You can actually see it phase separate, so it loses its volatility, so to speak. So you have to use some kind of a gas treatment in this stuff, especially with this old equipment. Let's keep our fingers crossed, see what happens here. Like I said, I only know if this battery's going to turn it over. Make sure that dog's in neutral. So far, not so good. I'm not sure it's actually going through the carburetor. The float's probably stuck. Well, if anything, it should be stuck open. Then again, I'm not sure I'm getting spark either. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pull the distributor cap, make sure I got spark over at the points. Here a while back, whenever I fired it up, I guess 6-7 years ago, my 6-volt resistor went bad and didn't have any spark. So I'm going to go ahead and check that resistor because I just got it hanging off the side of the distributor on the wire. So I'm going to check that. Well, let's try it again. The points really weren't opening quite far enough. It's supposed to be like 25 thousandths on these old engines. It was about 16 thousandths or thereabouts. And it was kind of corroded up. So I went ahead and filed the points. When I say file the points, you want to use an actual points file, a perfectly parallel filing surface so that you file those points perfectly flat. You don't want to reach in there with sandpaper. You can in a pinch. You can use a matchbook cover in a pinch sometimes, but when you really want to shape them up, you want to use an actual points file, which is this little guy right here. But at any rate, I've got good spark now, so if it doesn't light off, I'm going to have to assume it's fuel, and that means it's probably carburetor time. So let's give it a shot, see what happens. Carburetor's going to do just fine. There was lack of spark there, it's just kind of cold nature. Take a look at my oil pressure gauge. I'm showing just a little over 80 pounds. This thing always has really good oil pressure. I'll tell you, if you need a good spare tire tank, if you get your hands on an outdated refrigerant recovery tank, not a Freon tank, they're way thin. This is a refrigerant recovery tank. They're pressure tested to, I don't know how many hundreds of pounds, but it's a very thick material. It ain't ever going to rust through in my lifetime anyway. But man, it's nice to make a little air tank. You know, we got small flat tires or something like that for emergency and things. But you can back out the fitting there on the top of the tank where the sensor went in. You know, for the fill sensor. And you can put you some fittings and a ball valve and all that in it, or a Schrader valve for filling it, and of course a gauge and everything, you know. And I pumped this thing up to about 140 pounds of pressure, and that's so much less than what you would put in it pressure-wise on a hot day with the refrigerant that it's rated for. So, and they make a wonderful air tank, safe for many years. Of course, like I said. Don't do that just because I said so. I mean, you know, hell, it might blow up and kill the neighbor's cat, you know. But it works fine for me. I see guys screaming all the time about when somebody stands alongside a tractor and tries to start it, saying, oh, you shouldn't do that, you're going to get run over, whatever, you know. Well, I tell you what, I've been around tractors since, since before I was born, man. But, you know, if a fella don't know how to make sure one's in neutral, he ain't got no business being around a tractor anyway. This is a 800 series Ford. There's several series of Fords that have an up and down neutral. So on this series especially, you just grab the shift lever, you know, you pop it forward or backwards and jerk it up and down a time or two. If it goes up and down, you know, 2.5, 3 inches, dang it, you're in neutral. So let's see, now that it's warmed up a little bit and I aired the tire up, let's see if it'll fire back off. You saw how quick it fired off when it was stone cold. Hopefully you saw it blow out some mud dauber's nest stuff out of the exhaust pipe, because it blew some stuff out, some hot little things that burnt me down my collar. But once you get you get the proper fuel and the proper fire there, this thing usually fires right up. So now that it's warm, let's see if that happens again. Again, see that shift lever right there? Okay, there's no mistaking neutral. Absolutely no mistaking neutral. This guy here, you got to keep your hand on the choke. My oil pressure balanced out at about 65 pounds, and I'm just coming off of the right into the warmer operating zone, and I'm still showing just a slight positive charge on that 55 amp Delco one wire alternator. So all systems go. It's time to move back over to the other shed and go back to work on that saw rig that's going on the back of this.